everyone, welcome to Kelly's Creative Dream Studios, and it is Christmas in July and we're doing another Christmas card today, and this one is super simple and it has a couple of options. So today we're working with the Embossing Dabber. Now this makes little circle dots and then you coat it with your embossing powder, heat it up, and you're ready to go. The other option is, if you don't want to use a dauber, you can use your regular VersaMark pad and say snowflakes. You could and emboss them in silver or in blue. The other thing is you could use hearts and do the same technique for Valentine's Day. Lots of different options to play with. But today I wanted to focus on the embossing dauber. Now I bought this from Spectrum Art Creations and I will link that down below. Remember, their live sale every Saturday. That's the one that usually gets me. I was saved this past Saturday because I was in a writer's conference all weekend, and that helped a lot because I didn't spend any money, and I've decided I really need to not spend any money till I get this studio in shape. So we'll see how that works out. So let's get started. First off, if you'll notice, I have a standard 4 1/4 by 5 1/2 card base, and I've got a hair there that wants to stick around my card. And then I have cut a top layer 1/4 inch smaller all the way around. So this mat is cut to 4 inches by 5 1/4. And I cut a bunch of those. I had a bunch of those cut, but just to do one here quick. And I'm using my Stampin' Up trimmer because I don't have to put the arm out for this one. So I'm going to go to 4 inches by 5 1/4. Now, what I did do initially, and this was really super cool, is I took a sheet of cardstock that was 8 inches by 10 1/2, and I stamped the whole page. And then I went back and I cut it, and I had 4 card mats, just that simple. The trick to doing this is you can only emboss one color at a time. So I have a silver, I have a red glitter, I have a green glitter, and I have a gold. Now I will tell you that the glitter ones, they tend to spread a little bit, so you really need to be careful about making sure that you keep a distance from your paper when you're doing that, and that your heat gun is heated up 15 to 25 seconds before you apply it to your base. Now I'm using my Stampin' Buddy because I did not do it on my first one and I wound up with stragglers. And I'm going to start with one color. Let's start with the gold. And I'm going to put a piece of paper under this because I'm going to wind up stamping off. Let's use this. And I think I'm going to use this one, just like this, because then I have the extra here. So I'm going to take, and you need to activate it a little bit so, you know, like a paint marker, you want to get it started flowing. And you're going to stamp and you're going to squeeze. Stamp and squeeze. Okay? And then you're going to come back with your color. Do an impressive amount. Now today's video is going to be really quick because it is warm in my office, especially in my filming corner. And I don't have, if I turn the fan on over here, I'm going to have embossing powder everywhere. And you know, I think I want, no, I don't want another dot down there. Now I have this in my little paper here so I can tip this back in the jar. And I'm going to have some overspray. Take my baby wipe here and wipe that off. I could also use my handy dandy We Are Memory Keeper sweeper. It is charged. I think it was charged the other day, but I didn't have it screwed back together tight. So That'll take care of my excess on there. And then I'm going to come back, and because I'm only doing one pad there, I can use my clipboard with my foil on it to hold it in place. And I see I've rubbed some of that off by picking that up. So let's recoat that corner. Some embossing powders work better than others. I have some off-brands. I have Stampin' Up. I have Stampin Up. Wow is probably one of the best embossing powders out there, and you will find Wow at Spectrum Art Creations as well. They also have the Dabber and the ink pad. You'll see how that changes colors. And then we're going to get this one down here. Now here's the thing. After you've heated this up and melted your embossing powder, you need to let it cool for a second. Maybe wave it around, because if you don't, when you go back and add the other colors of embossing powder, you're going to mix your colors, which, you know, might not be a bad thing. It might look kind of cool, but it's not the look we're after today. And I'm going to spray my baby wipe here. Remember, I use all my dried up baby wipes and get a second use out of them just by spritzing them with water. Okay, now let's come back with, let's come in with the red this time, and you'll see the difference. And I'm going to kind of stamp off that corner. Whoops, did you see what I did? I didn't come back in with my paper. We're going to stamp off that corner. Let's come over here. Stamp off over here. And if you wiggle, you're going to see some spots. So let's come down here on this one. Okay. And then we're going to come back. Now before I sprinkle this, I'm going to come back with my baby wipe and wipe that embossing powder off of there so my embossing powder doesn't stick to that when I go to empty it. And then we're just going to sprinkle right over our dots. So we don't have a lot of cleanup. We're not going to put out a whole bunch on there. Give that a tap. And you'll see I have some residue in there, so I'm just going to come back in with a brush. And I'd really like to have a smaller brush, but this is what I had on hand. Lay that aside while we gather this up and tap it back into our jar. And boy, that red really stuck to that, didn't it? Wowzers. We lost a lot of red on that one. It does work better if you put it on like a piece of copy paper. I'm just going to run my brush over here and get this up so I don't have it everywhere all over my desk. I love my new toy. This was about $10 at Hobby Lobby. They had gone up in price, and this one was stuck to the back of the shelf in the older packaging. I'll come back with my baby wipe here. Okay. And where did I do with my clipboard? There it is. My clipboard. And you can see where I kind of double stamped that one. It's not exactly a dot. But can you see doing this with blue sparkly snowflakes, or even emboss with white embossing powder for the snowflakes? And maybe we'll try that one if we have time. Now see, I got a little close to that, and I spread the embossing powder out. So it's going to look a little funny, but I'm going to show you how we can fix that. So don't despair. Don't despair. Remember, it's just paper and everything's fixable. Okay. We'll lay that down. We're going to come back with another color here. And let's find a place to put our green, shall we? Let's put a green one over here. And a green one over here. And we're going to come back in there with the silver. We'll come back in with silver for that one. The glittery embossing powder is a little messier than your standard embossing powders. So know that going in. You're going to have a little bit more of a mess. Because, you know, it's glitter. It wants to be everywhere. It wants to be everywhere. And I'm probably not going to use this on the silver. I will wait and clean that off when we're done. Put my green away. Now, as you can see, doing this with an entire sheet where you can cut them apart will work out really great. Now, it's a glitter one, so I'm going to stand back a little bit higher up so I don't spread that too much. And you can see it start to run. And that's your indication that you've hit your hot spot. And it just takes it a second, okay? I think I'm there. Okay, then the last one we're going to do is our silver. Clean up that mess. If you don't have this handy dandy sweeper, another cool thing to use is your lint roller. Now this is a Scotch, and I hate Scotch because they're seamed all the way down the side and it's hard to get one layer to peel off. I like the ones from Dollar Tree. They peel off, think of like opening up a can of your biscuits where they've got that diagonal tear all the way around and they open up so much better. Okay, now we need to come back in, and I'm just going to go ahead and stay on this one. And then we'll move it out of the way when we're done. We need to come back in and do us a silver. And we need silver over there, okay? Now before I shake that off, I am going to put a piece of paper under there so it will be easier to pick that up. And I had a whole mess of pieces of paper here. I'll try not to. There we go. And you can see that when I smudged a little bit. I'm going to come in with a really fine brush and brush that around so I keep that circle going. And we'll tap this out of the way. Okay, put this back in our silver box. Okay, and that's the end of that. Okay, we're going to dry these silver ones really quick, and then I'll show you how we make, oops, I missed one. I'll show you how we make use of that boo-boo. I missed one up here. And VersaMark, you have a little bit of playtime. So don't worry about, oops, that one's going to be dry before I get the embossing powder on it. Not really. It's a slow drying ink, so you're good to go. Okay? Okay, so now we can come in and do our silver dots. And I'm trying to find a place to put this so that I can hold this without pinching that circle. There we go. And it just takes it a minute. The thing is, you don't want to get too close. You don't have to be all the way down on top of it. Hold it up, give it a little wave, and you'll have plenty of room to work. There we go. All done. Okay, while this one's drying, let's talk about the sentiment. Now, because you're keeping the background simple, you really want to do the same with your sentiment. So all I did was I used this stamp set. I have no clue where it came from, but I used this Merry Christmas here because I like this bordering here. It added a little without having to layer my sentiment stamp. And then I used this for the inside of the card. So I didn't worry about my size cutting anything. I just used a scrap of white. And I used my Memento Tuxedo Black because black is elegant. And so is gold and silver. So it worked. And I want to make sure I got that really inked up good. Do the Carol Duvall Huff. I mean the D. Gruenig Huff. And then just kind of eyeball it onto my scrap paper. Okay. And then I can come back in. Try not to lose stuff off my table. After doing last week's videos, I did not have a chance to clean up my table. Now all I'm doing is I'm just trimming really close to that sentiment. And I'm letting that fancy border they've got on the stamp set to be my accent. So I'm coming back in, trimming that off. Now the first one I did with my trimmer, but this one I didn't. Now if you want to bring in those other colors again, one of the things that I have from color boxes is Teresa Collins gold ink. Now you can use any kind of gold ink that you want, but I love this one from Teresa Collins, and it's impossible to find. Teresa Collins, after she lost her husband to cancer several years ago, she got remarried, and she just kind of fell out of the crafting business world, and it's a shame because Teresa was an immense talent, and I miss seeing her stuff in the stores. Okay, I'm going to let that ink sit for just a minute, because that ink, in fact, let me do this. That ink is perfect to dry with your heat gun. It makes it pop. Okay, then I'm going to come back, and I had my bag of glue dots here somewhere. There they are. I had a pad. Oh, there they are. I was going to say, I had a pad of them out, I thought. Okay, so tomorrow is Tag Tuesday, so we will be doing another tag. And as I record this, I have no clue what tag I'm going to be making after I eat. But I'm going to be getting that done today too. Okay, I found a bare spot in the card to place this sentiment. And down here where this was starting to smear a little bit is a perfect place. Use your sentiment to cover any imperfections. Boo-boos are okay, because we can always cover them up somehow. If you have one where as you've been going through and you might not have gotten your circles quite where you wanted them to go, this would have been a good place to put this sentiment, maybe with a ribbon trim, right in the center. And then we're just going to come back through and drop that right there. Now we're going to come back and we're going to put more of our dots on here. And I have a bunch of bases already done, cut and folded, so that I had that part out of the way. And this is a pretty big base, so am I going to get crazy with the dimensionals? Yeah, probably, but that's okay. Kylie Bertucci from Stampin' Up, she's an Australian demonstrator, and she used to tease that her and Bruno, her husband, were going to earn their trips from Stampin' Up strictly on the amount of dimensionals that they bought, or that they sold and that they bought for their own use. That they'd have enough sales in dimensionals to pay for their trips. And I think Kylie and Bruno have been on every trip Stampin' Up has offered since they became demonstrators several years ago. They've had so much fun as a couple. And they're really a delight to watch. And Bruno is an extremely talented man. I would call him our Australian closet crafter. And those of you who are part of our Spectrum Art Creations family, you will know that reference to our closet crafter. Okay, and then I can come back in, make sure you have your sentiment going the right direction. The other thing is, depending on where you want to place that, you could always do that with your sentiment and put your card going horizontally or vertically as well as horizontally. So you could go either direction. So that's it for today's Christmas in July Christmas card using our embossing dabber. And remember, there are alternatives such as snowflakes, hearts, whatever you have for embossing powders. The sky is pretty much the limit. I will see you back here tomorrow for Tag Tuesday. In the meantime, remember, like, share, subscribe, and creative Christmas blessings.